welcome. Thank you for joining us. Today we're going to be chatting a little bit about ways that you can support your children in virtual learning or distance learning. Distance learning is becoming the new norm right now, and it's important that we all learn the skills and tips and tricks to be able to pivot for this time and prepare our children properly for distance learning. One of the most important things for our kiddos to know is what's expected of them. So before you even get to the classroom, the live classroom, you really want to check in with your teachers and whoever else is going to be helping with the distance learning to figure out what are the expectations. Do they need to be seated? Can they get out of their seat from time to time? Does it need to be in a quiet place? How long is the class going to be? What materials do they need to have? By preparing yourselves prior to the actual class starting, you know what's expected for that class. And when you know what's expected of your child, you can better prepare your child to learn what's expected of them. It's so important for us to take responsibility for our role in the distance learning, which is really figuring out what are the parameters, what are the expectations. Something that you can do is you can write out the expectations and review them at the start of every day. Or you can just vocally review them depending on where your learner's at. Some children don't need that visual prompt, but we always recommend having a visual prompt because then it takes out the need for you to have to say it. You can just point at the schedule that you created and tell them it's time for this, it's time to sit, and there's an icon of someone sitting so that after some time you can pull out your vocal prompt and just point at the sitting. Once we figure out what the expectations are for our child or learner during distance learning, then we can figure out how best to teach that child, whether it be written rules, visual rules, so pictures of people sitting, pictures of silence, or if it's just going to be a conversation that we have with them. It's also very important for us to be speaking in the what to do's versus the what not to do's. In our society, we're really socialized to say, no, stop, don't do that when someone's engaging in something unexpected. And when we do engage in telling people, don't do that, we're really just stopping the behavior. And we're not telling them what else to engage in that's expected. We're kind of assuming that they know how to choose the expected behavior. So we take all the assumption out of it and we start to speak in do's. For example, if a child is using a pen to tap on the table, instead of saying, stop, don't do that, that's making so much noise, that's annoying me, what we'll say instead is, pencils are for writing. You can write your name or set it down on the table. And now we're speaking in do's, what we can do with the pen, what is expected. And when the child engages in that, we want to make sure that we reinforce them. Great job putting that pen down. Great job putting that pen down. I love the way you write with that pen. You're so good at writing with that pen. And when we are speaking in the do's, it allows our children to take the guessing game out and they know exactly what is expected of them in the moment. Another strategy to use with your kiddo is to reinforce the expected behavior for the classroom or the virtual learning outside of the virtual learning setting. So for example, if we want to get our child to sit during their virtual or distance learning, we'll want to try and reinforce that behavior outside of the actual distance setting. Sometimes children will sit very well for their favorite TV show. So take that opportunity while your child's watching their favorite TV show to put a hand on their back and say, great job sitting so quietly. I really love the way you sit so nicely. And as we reinforce these behaviors at a higher rate while they're watching TV, or when they're driving in the car with you, or when they're sitting and waiting for an appointment, it increases the likelihood that they're going to engage in that behavior when you're at distance learning because they're already getting reinforced for that behavior. And as we say, behavior goes where reinforcement flows. If we're reinforcing sitting still and sitting with a calm body outside of the learning time, it's going to increase the likelihood that your child is actually going to engage in sitting during the learning time. There are so many great techniques that you can utilize to support your child in preparing their pre-learning skills for distance learning, and these are just a few. We look forward to having the opportunity to share more with you in the future. Thank you so much for joining us. And remember, if you're having fun learning, your child's gonna have fun learning.